Alrighty. Happy Monday. I gotta re-record because gotta tweak what I don't like how the other one was too long. Shorten things up, give you more work time. Okay? If you weren't here last week Friday, we did take a quiz, and so we will need you to get that done as soon as possible. We will also be having another quiz this week Friday here in class, and next week Friday here in class. So, we will be in your white note packet, so if you have that out. If you want to have out your homework packet too, that's fine. At the end, I will be going over making sure you understand how to do the homework and giving you some helpful homework tips and all that fun stuff. So if you want to have that out, but just not be working on it right now, that'd be great. Okay? So on page 7 in your note packet, excuse me, hiccup there. We're graphing a couple of linear inequalities on the coordinate grid. We've done that before. That comes with shading too. So if you could do those two at this point in time, I'll give you a couple of minutes to get those done. Go for it. Just remember too, when you're drawing in your lines, whether or not they're dashed or if they're solid for one, but you're also using something that is straight to draw those lines in. Meaning you're using your ID, a ruler, a straight edge, your homework packet, something that's straight to draw in those lines. So this first one is in slope-intercept form already for us. So we can go to our y-intercept of positive 5. Put a dot there. And then we can utilize our slope of negative 1/4, which would be down 1 and right 4 in my two directions, two numbers scheme of things. If we didn't want to go down and right, we could always go up and left. Up 1, left 4, so on and so forth. Then this is a just greater than line, so that would be a dashed line that we would have to go through there. It wouldn't be solid, it would be dashed. Okay? And then we need to test a point on one side of the equation. I always recommend that if you don't go through the origin, it can't be on the line, it's got to be off the line. So if you don't go through the origin, test the origin. If I plug in 0 for y, that gets me 0. Negative 1/4 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 5 is 5. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a false statement. So I wouldn't shade on the side of the test point. I would shade on the other side of the test point. Just to confirm that, let's also test point 4, 10. 10 would be greater than negative 1/4 times 4 plus 5. Negative 1/4 times 4 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 5 is 4, and that is a true statement. So then, therefore, we would shade on this side of the line. Yeah.
I don't understand what you mean, like the true and false thing, because like.
Is 0 bigger than 5?
No.
That's why it's a false statement, right?
Okay.
Is 10 bigger than 4? Yeah, so that's a true statement. Okay? So we take a point somewhere, it can be anywhere that we want, we get to pick it, okay? And we take that x and that y value, We plug it back into our original inequality. Okay.
Like the 2 points are gonna just be like 1 to check.
Well, I like to do one on both sides, just then it verifies what I was thinking. Okay, you know what I mean? But it's two. You're plugging in two things because you're plugging in an x and a y. Okay. Good. All right. Next one, y-intercept of -8, slope of +2. This one's going to be a solid line, though. Again, didn't go through the origin. So I get a false statement there. Confirm it on the other side. Let's go with 10, 0. And 0 is less than 12, so that's been confirmed. Love it. Yeah. So let's dive back into our long lost friends Carlos and Clarita. Still working on getting their pet boarding business off the ground. Okay. They're talking about the spatial constraints, and we've made these equations many, many times. Okay. So, in terms of the spatial requirements of cats and dogs, a cat pen will require 6 square feet of space, while a dog run requires 24 square feet of space. Carlos and Clarita have up to 360 square feet available. So Carlos decided to make an equation based off of that. And what Carlos did is Carlos made a table. And in Carlos's table, he said X was cats and Y was dogs. Okay. And he said if I have 0 dogs, or excuse me, 0 cats, if I don't have any cats whatsoever, then he has room for 15 dogs. Carlos goes on to say, if I use some of the space for 4 cats, then he can have 14 dogs. If he gets room for 8 cats, then there's only enough room for 13 dogs left over. And so on and so forth. So Carlos came up with an equation by graphing some points that worked for his spatialness. Then he figured out the rate of change, which is also the slope. The rate of change, remember, is the change in the y's. What is that change in that y for consecutive terms in our table?
1. -1.
-1, because it's going down 1. Yep. What would the change in x be then? Positive 4, yep. So my slope would be my change in my y over change in my x. Okay? So he got a slope of his line as negative 1/4. Okay? Makes sense? It works. Okay? What's Carlos's from his table? What's his y-intercept? 15, right? So this one right here then is his y-intercept. So that's how Carlos came up with the equation for his spatial equation as y equals negative 1/4 x plus 15. Okay? Anybody unclear about how he got it? Okay. Clarita's method was, she said, cat pens require 6 square feet of space, so 6x is going to be the amount of space that gets used by X amount of cats. Because each cat's going to use 6 feet, so X amount is going to be 6x. Then she said that dogs require 24 square feet, so 24y would be how much space a dog uses. She added those two together to get her equation and then set it equal to 360 because that's how much space she's got to use. Okay? Which method do you find easier?
Carlos's.
Carlos? Finding the slope? Okay. Downfall with Carlos's method though, not to shoot holes in your thinking, but so that's a positive. It's a little bit easier, but what's the problem with it? You gotta find points, right? You gotta find points that work. Okay? Anybody think Clarita's method's easier? Yeah? Okay. Downfall with Clarita's method. We'll give a pro and a con. You gotta find how many then, right? Yeah. Okay. And it might the spatialness might not be the best. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, both of those equations are for the same area, right? So both of those equations should be what? They should be the same, right? Just the same, right? Okay. So let's take Clarita's equation. So Clarita's equation was 6x plus 24y I didn't like my 4. And we need to make it become Carlos's equation. Well, let's take a peek at Carlos's equation. What's different about Carlos's equation?
It's y by itself.
It's y by itself. So what do we need to do with Clarita's equation then? First thing that you would do. Okay, we're trying to make them look like it. Okay, you're doing substitution method, which wouldn't really work in this case because they're supposed to be the same equation. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. I did see his hand first. 6x from both sides. Is that what you were going to say? Subtract 6x from both sides. Yep. So then that would give me 24y equals negative 6x plus 360. Okay, what would we do next?
Divide the whole thing by 24.
So if I'm going to divide by 24, where am I going to divide by 24?
6 by 24 and divide 360.
So everywhere?
Yeah.
Yep, so everywhere, okay? So I'm going to divide here by 24, here by 24, and here by 24. I got to divide every term, have everything by 24. Okay? And then it should become the same, right? Now, the reason I say that, we'll get there in a second. The reason I say it, because a lot of people will just do it under the 1. They won't do it under both. Okay? All right? So 24 divided by 24 is y. Negative 6 divided by 24. Is that a simplifiable fraction? Negative 1/4? Yep, negative 1/4. And then that's going to be multiplied by x. And 360 divided by 24. 15. Shabam! There it is. We did it. Okay? There is Carlos's equation. Okay? So they are, in fact, the same. Okay? Now, it's a little bit more difficult to go from Carlos to Clarita. Okay? So Carlos started with y equals negative 1/4 x plus 15. Okay? Let's take a peek at Clarita's equation now. What do we notice about Clarita's equation? Nope, just her equation. Looking at it's one of our 3 forms. Nope, Carlos was slope-intercept. Nope,
Standard.
it's standard form. So what do we know about standard form?
X and Y are on the same side.
X and Y are on the same side. Yep. Okay, so X and Y are on the same side. So the first thing that I would do here is I would add 1/4 x to both sides. Now that, oops, I forgot the x. Now that is going to give me 1/4 x plus y equals 15. And we said that in our standard form for this class, that's okay. Okay? In true standard form, there's no fractions, there's no decimals, and a, the very first one, the coefficient on the x, is positive. Okay? But that's for another class later on down the road. Okay? But this still doesn't look anything like Clarita's, correct? Okay? So let's multiply everything by 4, because that will get rid of the fraction. So I'm going to multiply there by 4, I'm going to multiply there by 4, and I'm going to multiply there by 4. 1/4 times 4 is just 1, so then this would just be x
Plus 4y.
plus 4y, because that's 4 times y, equals 60. Okay? Now we're in more of a true standard form. We've gotten rid of our fractions. Okay? But is this still Clarita's? No. Okay? So if I multiply again by 6, and the reason that I chose 6 is because I looked at Clarita's, and Clarita had 6x to start her equation. Okay? So if I multiply that one by 6, now I get 6x plus 24y equals 360, which is Clarita's equation. Okay? Love it. All right. So let's come up with, now instead of using spatials, let's come up with startup costs. So Carlos and Clarita plan on using $1,280 they earned to purchase the cat pens and the dog's runs. It will cost $32 for each cat pen and $80 for each dog run. Okay? Whose method should we use to figure out an equation? Carlos's, so we should make a table. Okay? All right. So let's make a table for Carlos's method. Again, I'm going to stick with X and Y, and I'm going to have X be cats and Y be dogs. Okay? If Carlos gets 0 cats, how many dogs can he board? 15? How'd you come up with that?
You said it before.
No, this is different.
Oh.
Yeah, this is different. So what do we have to do? If we have 0 cats, all dogs,
I got 16 to just divide 1,280
by 80, because it's all dogs, right? So we do 1,280 divided by 80, and that got me, you said 16 here? Okay. What if we have all cats? 40. Right? That works, because that would be 1,280 divided by 32. Right? Okay. So what would the slope of Carlos's line be? Nope. I want the slope. What's my change in y's? Minus 16. What's my change in x's? Plus 40. So it's going to be what? Negative 16 over 40. Can that be reduced at all?
Yes.
Both can be divided by 8. Okay. 16 divided by 8 is 2. 40 divided by 8 is 5. Okay. So we got a slope of negative 2/5. One of the things that I noticed on the formative from last week is we don't do a good job of reducing fractions. Okay. All fractions need to be reduced. Fox, wake yourself up back there. I don't want you falling asleep in this high-powered business meeting between Carlos and Clarita. Okay? What is Carlos's y-intercept?
16.
16. That's this one right here still. Yep. So what would Carlos's equation be? What would Clarita's? Now let's switch. Sorry, that was a really bad transition. I apologize, Scripps. That was my bad. Okay. Do we all agree with Carlos's equation? Okay, that's what it is. Okay. Now Clarita's method, we would have $32 for each cat pen, and cats are what variable? X. So in Clarita's method, it would be 32x. Dog runs are $80 each. So how would that look in the equation? Plus 80y. And that would equal 1,280. Yep, exactly. Okay. Now, just to verify, let's do a quick verification of that we can solve Clarita's equation to get Carlos's equation. Probably the fastest way of doing it. So we're going to subtract 32x from both sides. That's going to give me 80y equals negative 32x plus 1,280. Then I'm going to divide everywhere by 80. Divided by 80 is y. Negative 32 over 80. 2/5? Negative 2/5, yep, because they can both be divided by 16. 16 goes into negative 32 negative 2 times. 16 goes into 85 times. 1,280 divided by 80, we actually did that already, and that was 16. Handle? Okay. Let's take a peek at our homework this evening. Heavy on the graphing on your homework. Let's take a peek at tonight's homework so we make sure we did it right. And we showed our work. Because, we got to show our work. Okay? So the first 4, that's going to be graphing equation or inequalities, right? Okay? So the first 4, remember that if you are a less than or a greater than, that is a dashed line. If we are an equals part, that is a solid line. And then that there is shading involved. Okay? So, since there's shading involved, what do we need to show?
Our work.
We got to show our work as to what we plugged in and where we plugged it in and how we plugged it in and the truthiness or the falsitude of it. Okay? All right? So it's not just straight up graphing there. You've got a little bit of work to show. Okay? Next page is 4 more graphs, but this time now it's just lines. There's not shading involved, but there are intercepts. It's asking you to find the x and the y intercepts for each one. Remember that the x-intercept is where y is equal to 0, and the y-intercept is where x is equal to 0. So you plug 0 in for y, solve the equation, that gets you your x-intercept. The x part of your intercept, the y part is 0. Plug in 0 for x, solve it, that gives you the y-intercept.
We shade the side that's correct or incorrect?
That side that's true on the first 4. On this one, there is no shade because they're equals. So this is just equals, no shading on equalities. Then you've got 4 more graphs, and those 4 graphs, you're finding the intersection point of where those 2 lines meet, or where they intersect, where they cross. Okay? Any questions on the homework? I am available to stamp also, and you now have the rest of the time to work on your homework.